Welcome to the IT Career Energizer podcast. For anyone who wants to build and grow a career in IT, develop and improve your strengths and skills, be inspired and motivated by the successes of others, manage your career progression, and achieve your IT career goals. And now, your host, Phil Burgess.
Welcome to episode 52 of the IT Career Energizer, a weekly podcast where I chat with inspiring IT professionals, consultants, and experts from around the world. To find out more about the podcast, visit itcareerenergizer.com. And remember to subscribe to get new episodes automatically downloaded to your device. And now let's chat with today's featured guest, Jeff Patton. Jeff is an independent consultant providing training, coaching, and consulting services. He has designed and developed software for the past 20 years on a wide variety of projects, from online aircraft parts ordering to electronic medical records. Jeff has also authored numerous articles, essays, and most recently a book, User Story Mapping. So Jeff, can I ask you to expand on that brief bio and tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Where do I start? First, you said I was supposed to be inspiring. I'm not sure if I can live up to that in your intro. Also, what else? How can I expand on that? I've been in software development for a long time, probably more than 20 years. Now I lose track. What can I say? I started software development at a small product company with 30 or so people, and that company grew big. I've worked at other software companies. I've worked at a large consultancy called ThoughtWorks, and these days I work independently. What's interesting is the title of this podcast is about IT, and what's interesting is I might consider myself not an IT person. I'm a product person. I work with primarily companies that build and sell software products. And I work with companies that are large organizations which are trying to work more like product companies and less like traditional IT. So that may be something for us to talk about. What's the difference between traditional IT and what's the difference between product thinking? But that's my focus these days is product thinking.
Do you think that's a shift of people's way of looking at IT solutions?
A huge shift. Yeah. Yes. Where traditionally, I worked for a company that built software for brick and mortar retailers. They eventually got bought by Salesforce. And I work with other companies like Atlassian, who a lot of people who work in IT know because they use Atlassian tools. But if you work at Atlassian, you're building a piece of software that you sell. And the way work there, the way you work, the way you think about your work is very different there. But more and more I get pulled into banks and insurance companies. And, I just came from breakfast this morning with my local university, and they might think of themselves as traditional IT, but more and more they're trying to unravel the processes they have and move to working a little bit more like, let's say, Atlassian does.
Yeah. So it's more about solutions than IT itself.
Well, it's more, one of the things I'll talk an awful lot about is the difference between output and outcome. Output is what you build, and outcome, if you measure what you build in those traditional things like time, cost, and scope, and maybe even quality, whether there's bugs and things like that in it. Outcome you measure different. You measure outcome based upon whether people actually try and use what you built, and it's the using what you built that actually gets the benefit. Return on investment comes from that. If you're in the product world, all that matters is that outcome stuff. The amount of how on time you were doesn't matter. The quality doesn't matter. If people don't use what you build, none of that matters.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean by that. Yes. Can you share maybe a unique career tip that the IT Career Energizer audience need to know and probably don't?
Yeah. If I view everything through this lens of product thinking a bit, if I were to give people a tip, and I was looking through some of the questions you normally talk to people about, and I'm going to feel like a little bit of a broken record. A lot of my answers to the questions are all the same, but the first tip I'd give is to make sure that you spend actual time talking to the people that use your stuff. Talk to the people that will use that are using the software you build or will use the software you build. Observe them using that, and I promise you, it'll profoundly change the way you do things.
Can you tell us maybe about your worst IT career moment and what you learned from that experience?
Yeah, I saw that question, and I've got two. It's funny. I've got two worst moments. One of my worst moments is also one of my best moments. Some of my worst. I just gave that advice to spend time with people building software, and uh, years ago. Um, I used to build software for large retailers, and as a policy, we would always be there when they turned on our system and went live with it. And it was both a best and worst moment to be there when they turned it on and it went live. And this wasn't awful. It wasn't that it didn't work. It's that it worked and it just sort of sucked. We felt horrible. We felt pretty proud of what we'd built, and until we stood behind people using our product and saw how much they struggled with it. And to a degree, they were even apologists for us. They were telling us it's not so bad, and look, I can do okay with it. But for us, it was just miserable. It was just awful watching people use that stuff. That turned into a best moment because it turned into a learning moment. It turned into an energizing moment, a moment that caused us to really care about what we were doing and kind of look at it in new light. But that's not exactly the worst moment. Some of the worst times I've ever had, I can remember being on a project that was following more of a traditional process and being asked, well, first off, I was working mostly alone, not with other people, and we were following sort of a traditional process, and I was told okay, the first thing we've got to do is write a technical requirements document, and I can remember spending weeks going in every day trying to figure out how to write a technical requirements document and what it was supposed to be like, and working alone, not pairing or partnering with anybody, and just having my job as when I was a developer being more about writing a document and less about actually solving a problem. That was the most miserable time I've ever had on the job.
Yes, I think a lot of projects are very focused on the way the system works as opposed to as you said earlier, the end benefits. So it's ease of use, it's fit for purpose, the ability for it to be intuitive for the end user. I think those are the key things these days that people, there is definitely a shift towards that.
Yeah, definitely. I have a punchline to the story I was just telling. I can remember having a boss or the guy that was in charge of the project back then that had given me the task of writing these technical design documents. And I met with him, a little over a week after starting this job. And he said, "How is this going with writing these documents?" We reviewed a little bit what I'd written so far. And then I confided with him that first off, that this was miserable. It was really hard to write these things without writing the code. And he said, "Well, just go ahead and write the code then, and then write the document based upon the code that you wrote." He said, it's really hard to write. And he said, it's really hard to write a technical design document if you can't write any code. So go ahead and write the code first. That was the weirdest moment I had was, figure out the technical design by writing the code and then write the document based upon the code you wrote.
Yes, you end up documenting what the system does as opposed to what it should do.
Yeah, and it turned out that was a lot easier. And in writing the code, I learned an awful lot about the problem. And then ultimately what I documented, there was still more code to write to turn it to productionize it. It changed the way I saw things, actually.
Yep. So moving on from your worst IT career moment, can you possibly tell us about your career highlight or greatest success?
I don't know. I'm still waiting for that greatest success. Put it that way. For me, the successes that I lean on are having worked on pieces of software that I know people still use. Where I for many years I did build software for large retailers, and I still go into companies today and I can look over the counter and see what they're using, and I know that this is the stuff, the foundation of this stuff is the stuff that I built years ago. Without naming company names, there are a lot of companies I can still go into and see my stuff in use, and for me it's the satisfaction of knowing I built something that actually got used, that actually benefited.
Absolutely, yes. So what excites you about the future of the IT industry and careers in IT?
It's funny. I'm old enough now that I've got kids, and I keep trying to encourage my kids to go into IT because it pays more. First off, it pays. There's high demand, and it's a thinking job. It's a job that's about problem solving. It's a job that constantly changes and constantly evolves. What excites me about careers in IT is it is becoming. I think we went through some bad days where we tried to make IT more like construction, where we tried to outsource more of it, where we tried to throw more developers on problems. And I think what excites me is we're starting to go back to understanding that this is a technical job, this is a thinking job, this is a problem-solving job, that the speed of writing software isn't a function of your typing speed, that it's a function of your thinking speed and your problem-solving speed. What excites me about IT is it's more collaborative than it has been before. And what's challenging, that's also challenging. A lot of people, including me, went into IT because I wasn't necessarily very good with people, but now you just can't get software written without starting to collaborate and be good with people. What excites me about IT these days is it's more important to be multidisciplinary. If you're a developer, to write in more languages, to learn more about talking and working directly with customers. If you work on the product side of things, it's more important that you understand the technology, and there's more to learn there. Job roles are broadening quite a bit now.
I think that's interesting, the way the industry has changed, really, probably in the last, well, if you look back 20 plus years, and the way roles tend to be quite siloed, and there was definitely handovers between roles as opposed to it being an integrated team effort.
Yes, yeah. Now it's with the rise of Phil. I'm not sure how many people you end up talking to, but I'm involved in this agile thing. It doesn't say that in my bio, but I was involved in this agile stuff from early on, and agile these days, 15, 16 years after the coining of that term agile, that's kind of permeated everything, and everything takes a long time to move. But at minimum now, we start to expect people to work in teams that have multiple disciplines in the same team. There's not a I realize in some places I was about to say that there's not a testing group and a development group and a front end group and a back end group and a group of business analysts and a group of designers. More and more, we push all those people into the same space to work together.
Yeah.
I realize some people listening probably may still be in companies that have all those people segregated, but that segregation is becoming. We now more commonly understand that that's a dysfunction, not the way it should be.
We're going to go into the reveal round now. Are you ready for this?
I don't know if I have anything to reveal. Yes, I'm ready for this.
So what first attracted you to a career in IT?
Yeah, that's funny. I ask people this all the time. Like a lot of people, when I was a kid, I dabbled with computers and wrote simple, basic programs on. I'm old, so on Texas Instruments computers and things like that. I've always liked playing with code, and I guess what finally drew me into IT is having the opportunity when the web became a thing I have a bit of graphic art skill to take the graphic art skill and the development skill I had, and that's what kind of pushed me into the UI design and customer facing side of things. What drove me into IT is leveraging what I love about technology and what I love about solving problems and about making visual things.
What is the best career advice you've ever received?
It wasn't necessarily direct advice, but I can remember years ago when I was involved with my job and just focusing on doing a good job, I first met someone years ago that was actually very reflective about the way they did their job. I met someone who was a continuous learner who pushed me towards books I should read. And back then we were just talking about database design. This was during the 1990s. And he said, well, if we're going to do this, you really ought to know some common language here. Read this book. That opened me up to realizing, hey, I could learn more than I learned in university. That this was an evolving, changing field. And it's from his advice that turned me into more of a continuous learner.
If you were to begin your IT career again right now, what would you do?
I would start with learning in mind. If I riff on what I just said, start by understanding that we need to build a core set of skills. But if you're in IT, one of the core skills you need to build is a continuous learning skill. And what was it? What would I do? I would strongly resist being given any particular job title. It's the minute you've got a job title and a specialty is the minute you start to get pigeonholed. For me personally, I like not being pigeonholed.
What career objectives are you currently focusing on?
For me, I'm the wrong person to ask about this. I'm in my 50s, and what's interesting is these days I do a lot of teaching and speaking and things like that. These days I'm focusing on making a dent. I'm known for this book on story mapping, and I do a lot of teaching and focusing on product thinking. And before I exit my career, I want to make a dent on the way product thinking works in IT. So we start to change the way a lot of traditional IT works. And then I'm hoping I can make that dent, and then I'm hoping I can go back and just write code again. I sort of miss that. My ideal retirement is to actually go back and be a developer like I was in my late 20s.
What's the number one non-technical skill that has helped you in your career so far?
Listening. It's funny. I took a lot of software development classes in university, and I had a career distraction in my early days where I took a job in a store, a company that sold software and software and computers, and I ended up managing that store and working with a lot of corporate accounts. But I ended up being a salesperson. And the one thing I learned from being a salesperson is it's a lot less about selling or convincing people to buy things, and a lot more about listening and problem solving. I learned how to listen well, and that's the thing that skill that I got from learning how to sell actually turned out to be hugely valuable. It's what I end up spending a lot of time teaching people in the software world.
Jeff, can you share a parting piece of career advice with the IT Career Energizer audience?
Find something to be passionate about. Find something that you care about, and do that, and keep trying things until you stumble across that one thing that you're passionate about. Look, if it's VR or AR or AI or something that your company isn't currently doing, spend some side time digging into that.
And finally, what's the best way we can find out more about you and possibly connect with you?
First, my website is an extremely long URL. That's jpattinassociates.com. There, I still write infrequently. You'll find writing there. I teach public classes on product ownership and product thinking. These days, in the States and in Europe, I'll be teaching classes in London and in Switzerland just in the next coming month, and also later in the year next year. Find me there, and also look to help support my daughter's college education. You should buy a copy of User Story Mapping.
Oh, definitely, yes. Jeff, thank you so much for joining me on the IT Career Energizer podcast today. It's been great chatting with you.
Yeah, it's been good to talk to you too. Thank you.
My thanks to Jeff for being my guest on today's show. You can find full show notes on the website at itcareerenergizer.com/E52. In the next episode, I'll be talking with Gene Kim, a multi-award winning CTO and founder of Tripwire. You can get this and other future episodes automatically downloaded and available to play by simply subscribing to the podcast in iTunes, Stitcher, or whichever streaming service you're using to listen. Thanks for listening, and remember, if you're not growing your career, you're slowing your career. Have a great week.
Thanks for listening to the IT Career Energizer podcast. To find out more about building a successful career in IT, visit itcareerenergizer.com.